having this experience here at the seminar, Young Adults and Single Seminar, titled Impacting the Next Generation. And I'm very humbled to be part of the speakers today. And my focus is to speak on the topic of education, because I realize the importance of education in our lives. And education is not necessarily just being in a structured environment, not just going through the university or professional training. Education, most importantly, starts from informal education. And informal education is critical, because every aspect of our life is based on informal education. You know, parents raise their kids. When you teach your kid how to crawl, that's an informal education. When you teach your kid how to run, that's informal education. Ride a bike, how to behave in public. It's informal education because they don't get a certificate at the end of it. You don't give them any certificate or diploma showing that they have graduated. But you still impact so much on them that they will become a useful person in the society. So this afternoon we are very excited to be here, and people are excited also to hear from us and enjoy the wealth of knowledge that we're going to share. Study shows that about 26 million children in this United States of America are fatherless. If you can put it into context, that's the whole size of Texas. So you can fill the whole Texas with people, with children that don't have fathers. So it is very critical for me to be here to educate and share my information, data with young adults, to remind them one more time how to behave and how to move forward, particularly in their individual area of training. So I am very much excited to be here, and I look forward that people who have participated will also leave here with some measure of information that will add meaning to their lives. And I highly encourage everybody to watch the video and actually follow the principles that we're going to share, because we're going to focus in the area of education, relationships, and also in finance. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I believe that it will influence your life in one fashion or the other. Thank you very much for having me on the stage. I would like to thank you again for the time I'm sharing space with you. Every moment that I get to speak is a great opportunity for me. It simply suggests that what I'm doing, somebody is recognizing what I'm doing. So I thank you very much for coming. I will also thank our pastor for giving us such an opportunity and space also to share our knowledge. It demonstrates the love you have for us, and we will continue to do the best we can by the grace of God to impact one another. The portion of my own presentation is on the subject of education, and I call it education, the game changer. I call it the game changer because education is our life, if you really look at it that way. I'm not talking about formal education, I'm talking about informal education, which is what we learn from our parents right from day one. The ideas that we get, the values that we grow, I'll say the religion or the spirituality that we work on, all encompasses what we learn from our parents. So I'm going to speak on the subject of education as a game changer. And I would like to make it more interactive. I don't want to stand here and preach or lecture. I don't want to lecture. I want us to get involved, because that's the beauty of this presentation. Education is an ornament in prosperity and refuge in adversity. It simply means that we can't do without education. And I always use this illustration that we are like a fish in a fish tank. Education is like water. We can't deny from learning. And the moment you shy away from learning, you are positioning yourself for a disaster. So I want us to pay attention to that. The first one will be, what is education? Basically, I will ask you in one word, what is education? Not so much about academic definition of education. And then we'll talk about the formal versus informal type of education. The importance of joining progressive associations, and also putting education into action. Definite of purpose. I have learned that 95% of the population has no definite of purpose. 5%, only 1% achieves their objectives. So that leaves us a question. Where do you fit in that number? Are you in the 95%? Or are you on the 5%? Or the 1%? What that shows us is that every day of our life we are bombarded with that 95% of people hanging around us. And it's most likely will have influence on how we perform our duties on a daily basis. So I put up this to create some kind of consciousness for us to be aware that we are overwhelmed every day of our life with 95% of people who has no definite of purpose. This is part of the experiences, the one I told you about informal education. I was in Hawaii a couple of years ago for a conference. And after the conference, I had about 4 hours to kill before flying back to Arizona. So I decided to go to Waikiki Beach. And when I got there, I saw an elderly man. He was about 95 years old. And he was playing this song that I love so deeply. The song that says, "Oh Lord my God, when I'm in awesome wonder, consider all the works your hand has made." And he was playing this with an instrument. You can imagine. So that caught my attention. Somehow I decided to go and sit next to him. This total stranger that I don't know. And for the next 2 hours, he taught me things I would like to share with you guys. What he taught me was, after playing that song, I introduced myself, as you can see. And we just sat there, and I asked him, what made you go into this field? He said, well, it's a long story, but I can tell you this is my 45 years of coming to Waikiki Beach. From 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. every Saturday. And it got me thinking, if a 95 years old man still have that life in him, and he still expect people to enjoy his work, how much more me? And he comes there with with smile in his face. So for the next 2 hours I was with him, I see, as he was telling me how he played with Elvis Presley, and how he mentioned all these big shots, big names in the musical industry. And each one he tell me, he will play the music, he will sing the song that he played with these people. So I put it up there to, make us to understand that we should be aware of our environment at all times, because we learn on a daily basis. There is no structural space where you learn. Even a stranger, give a stranger a chance. There is something you will learn from that stranger. Education. Derek Buck is former Harvard law professor and also the president of Harvard, former Harvard president. He said that if education is expensive, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. And I love it because education, in terms of formal education, you spend 2 years or 4 years to complete a program, and then you get your associate or bachelor's, whatever it is. and then you move on. But the danger about ignorance is that there is no graduation date. So that's what makes it expensive, because you remain in that circle and you never get out of it. So I'm submitting to you this afternoon that it is critical for us, if it's not formal education, at least pay attention to informal education, because it will add meaning to your life. All right, what is education? In one word, I want you guys to tell me in one word, what you understand by education. You say power? Okay.
Acquire knowledge.
Knowledge. Growth. Okay.
Purpose.
Purpose.
Experiences.
Experiences. Empowerment. Thank you so much. We are on the right track here. I came up with this few of them, which you mentioned already. I think education is a process. Even though it's a content, but it's also a process. And education is a journey, not a destination. So it's something that you don't just complete your degree program and then you relax. You say, okay, I got this, you hang it on the wall. That's not where it ends. That's just the beginning. I remember a friend got his degree, his PhD in aerospace and mechanical engineering. And when we went to his party, his graduation party, one of the friends happened to have a PhD in mathematics. And his advice that day was, to this my friend, was that this is just the beginning. And both of my friends were a bit offended. And we were saying, what do you mean this is... This guy spent 7 years of his training, just graduated, and you're telling us it's the beginning. What he was simply saying that this is where the work begins. This is when you're actually going to demonstrate to the world what you have spent 7 years of your life doing. So education actually is a journey. It's also an experience. When you watch somebody else make mistakes, you have just educated yourself from that experience. Or when you see somebody excel, you will learn from it. That's an experience. And it's also an exercise and practice. Just like we exercise our muscles, there's a need for us to learn on a daily basis. Just like you exercise your body, you exercise your brain. Because the moment you don't exercise your brain, study shows that according to National Science Foundation, about 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts is what we process. An average brain processes that much every day. And 80% of those thoughts are negative. And then 95% of them are repetitive thoughts. So imagine if you are not learning, you become dogmatic, you become traditional, you become stationary in what you're thinking. So there's a tendency that if you don't learn, you are basically depreciating, if I may use that word. Also, it's an experiment. And the big of them all is enlightenment. Education is enlightenment. Now, I'm not talking about just in a formal. I'm using that language intertwinedly. It's formal and informal education. Okay, I've mentioned it. There are two types of education. The ones that we get from university. The informal is, your parents, your guidance, your experience. You don't receive any diploma, any certificate for it, but it has such a powerful impact in your life. I'm sure we've heard about education is a key to success. But my question is, if education is a key to success, what is the door that you're trying to open? Education is the key to success. Yes, we've heard that several times. But as I was preparing this, I asked myself, what is the door? Can somebody give it a shot?
Yourself.
Okay, you cheated, huh? I asked this question in one of the settings, And people were telling me opportunity, career, they were going on and on and on. But actually, the answer is you. You need that key to unlock your mind. It's when you unlock your mind, then you'll be able to impact others. So if education is the key to success, you are the door. And until you learn how to unlock your own door, again, you'll be stagnant. So how do we obtain formal and informal education? We've already gone through that. Progressive members of society. There's a lesson I learned from my dad when I was 13, 15 years old. He told me something that I wish to document in one of my writings. He told me that between the age of 18 and 40, that's where either you make discoveries or you go down the hill. And he said, if you think about it, people that are in jail, who are in jail for one reason or the other, they usually fall in that bracket. People that discover things like Elijah McCoy and Louis Latimer and Dr. Patricia Bath and Dr. Charles Drew. These are people that have invented so much in life. Louis Latimer was the one that invented, Thomas Edison invented light, no doubt. But Louis Latimer is an African American who invented how the light would last longer. Because when Thomas Edison invented it, it usually lasts for 2 days. But Louis Latimer was the one that extended it, the filament, to last longer. And Dr. Charles Drew, an African American, he's the one that came up with the idea how to preserve blood so that we can have blood transfusion. And the whole idea came when there was a war, I think it was Second World War. He talked about how to preserve war so that US soldiers wouldn't die. Dr. Charles Drew invented that. And when we talk about the engineer, Elijah McCoy, he's the one that created the lubricant. Lubrication for, for train. He lubricates when train is moving, instead of stopping and lubricate Yes, the bearing. He was the one that invented what automatically will release lubricant so that the train will keep going. So I can go on and on and on. People who have come up with ideas. So my dad was telling me that I should be careful between that, to be conscious of it, between the age of 18 to 40. That 22 years window is where people commit the most. Either you get your breakthrough or you destroy yourself. And it's an informal education, but this thing has followed me throughout my life. Even when I came to this country first, what he told me at the beginning, or a book I saw him read, The Power of Positive Thinking. When I came here, that was what I went to the store looking for. And I still have that book up to today. Okay, the importance of joining progressive association. I highly encourage this, because what I have noticed that most of us don't like to belong to any association. We belong to association, but are they really progressive? And what I mean by progressive is, for example, the Society for Industrial and Organizational Psychology, American Medical Association, Engineering Association. Any field of training you find yourself, try to sign up. What that does is it helps you stay current in your field. And if you are still a student, register as a student affiliate. It's cheap. It's cheaper that way. But you need to stay in sync. And also, be current in your field of training. Otherwise, you will tell me what you've already learned. I don't want to hear it. I want some current study. That's why when you're writing your PhD, they want you to write something that is current. Something that is older than 10 years old. Otherwise, if you pull information from the 80s, it's simply telling me that you're not current. I also mentioned about getting out of your comfort zone. It's very easy to feel comfortable, and then you don't like to grow. The last one is putting education into actions. How do you translate what you have learned into actions? That's a very critical way of measuring your success. Because if you're not translating, it means you're just learning and you're not sharing it. And that's why I say the measure of education is the ability to inform and transform self and the environment. So if you're not changing, if you are still thinking the way you're thinking, if I may use this language, we're still acting the way we are when we came from Africa. That means you're not growing. You are physically here, but you're not growing. And education will help you practice what scientists call intellectual humility. Intellectual humility simply suggests that no matter how much you know, you will never know it all. You still have to leave yourself up for learning. That's why Walter Emerson said that everybody I meet is in some way my superior. Because there's something that anybody, I don't care even if it's a homeless person, there's something that person knows that you don't know. Yeah. And cultural humility also is, most of us, if not all of us, think our culture is more prevalent than other cultures. But cultural humility, which is education, is telling you that no matter how high you think of your culture, always respect other people's culture as well. And education translates into a better living. If you pay attention, I didn't mention anything about money. I don't know why we keep, correlating education to money. Yes, but the most important challenge is to change yourself first. Because if you can change yourself, it's easier to change your environment. Because the battle you're fighting inside is bigger than the one outside. And the highest thing to do, the biggest, victory is to conquer your own self. These are recent studies that shows that the more degree you acquire, I guess depending on the field, the more money you make. Again, I put that clause there, depending on the field. In psychology, if you have a first degree in psychology, good luck to you. So for you to be relevant in your field or make the money, you have to go for a graduate degree. A graduate degree. So basically, if you look at a bachelor's degree, make 21,000 higher than high school graduate. Master's degree, twice. And it goes up from there. I just talked about this. These are the statistical evidence that shows the growth. Yeah, when we talk about education, whether formal or informal, it's all about you. If you don't learn anything from my presentation, understand that the education that you're learning or you're acquiring is about discovering yourself, what social scientists call self-efficacy. Self-efficacy was first coined by social psychologist Albert Bandura from Canada. You can spend your entire life studying how to know yourself, basically. So I'm here to tell you that education, whether formal or informal, is a way of studying yourself. And if you don't do nothing else, get to know yourself better, and then you see the life around you change. You don't change outside before you start changing inside. You change inside, then it will affect outside. John Dewey is, if you are in education, is an educator who came up with this American system that we use, system of education. He said that education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. And if you look at it from a philosophical standpoint, actually, education, like I said from the beginning, every day, right from day one, when we were born here, it's all about learning. Till the day you die, it's all about learning. Whether it's formal or informal education, it's all about learning. So I want us to live here with the mindset that education is not necessarily when you are going through the formal training. It's also about to collaborate with one another in businesses, in social, in relationships, or even in the workplaces. That's one thing I want us to learn from here, because I can take an educated guess that most of us here have, college graduate or some kind of training. So we understand the advantages of formal education. But I'm here to present to you that it's also critical to know that informal education is what makes us who we are. So what have we learned? We learned that 95% of our population has no definite of purpose. We also learned that education is a process. It's not so much about the content, it's a process. If you want to know what people are, how family are living, when you go to somebody's house and watch how their husband and wife and children, how they process, they dance, I call it dance. When they're eating in the dining table, if you want to know what goes on in that family, just watch how they eat, who talks the most. So the process is where the result is, not the content that they are sitting in the table, but it's the process. And then we talked about formal education and informal. And of course, education is all about you, understanding yourself. That's what I want us to know. And in closing, I didn't include it here, but I want you to know that 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 10, says that I am what I am by the grace of God. So as much as we are learning, let us understand that in all our learnings, in all our knowings, there is a supernatural being that directs what we do. Thank you so much.